Avatar Frontiers of Pandora really took me by surprise. If you haven't checked out my review, it came in around 23 minutes and, close to 7 or 8 hours in the game. That is out of roughly a 20-hour campaign. So if you want to check out that review, I will also be doing a live stream after this discussion with the live audience, playing it on the PS5. I've only just started on the PS5, only have like a couple of hours I played last night, trying to kind of get to a good spot to showcase some things for you. My gameplay and the review and the footage that you saw in the review, that was all on my UB account on my PC. So I am looking at the reviews that are out there. I did check out IGN, ACG. I am seeing the Metacritic score. I am actually kind of surprised it's landing as low as it is. I thought this game was going to land in the mid, maybe high 80s. Graphically very strong. I think the gameplay is a pleasant surprise. It doesn't feel like a carbon copy Far Cry, but the reviews I saw that took issue with certain aspects of the game, I can kind of echo that to you now, maybe give you a little bit of a review roundup before we discuss. Largely what I'm seeing is universal praise for the graphics. Everyone's like, the graphics are fantastic, right? It looks beautiful. And then they sort of talk about the gameplay as being fun, but then they talk about it getting old. And the one review in particular, it wasn't ACG, it was somebody else. It might have been IGN, talked about how once you take down so many of the outposts, so many times it gets repetitive. And I'm not necessarily ever going to disagree with that criticism. I get that in a game, familiarity with a content loop or a repetition of a content loop is generally going to cause somebody to get either bored or annoyed. I typically find that as long as those activities are spaced out, that's totally fine. I do not expect a game like this to fill the map with every event's going to be different. Everything that I do is going to be completely different than the last time. The game sort of falls into three categories. You've got your combat, you've got your hunting, and then you kind of have like your gathering. Like that serves purposes for survival and cooking and crafting, and the hunting serves similar purposes, but it's also very fun. And then there is obviously exploration, and then there's the combat. If you primarily focus on this game and only sort of go mainline or only sort of do the same thing over and over again, I would imagine you would probably get kind of bored, but I enjoyed it because I was constantly doing something different. I was never doing the same thing. I was always kind of pivoting. There's like open world activities that can kind of happen all of a sudden, rescuing an animal, fighting different enemies. And I found that to be good. I found that to be enjoyable. It didn't seem as though it was dialing in Far Cry tropes too often. I could sense the Far Cry system sort of beneath the gameplay, but I felt like the quality of the graphics and the performance of the game and just the fun of what I was able to do. I thought ACG brought up some really good points about verticality being just awesome, just the verticality nature of the game and the ability to move around in the fight or maybe even grab a ledge and get up higher really takes the combat out of what you typically would do in a Far Cry. You're not a normal, normal sized person. You're this giant Na'vi. And so I thought he made some very good points. So I am kind of shocked that it's landing as low as it is. Like, I gave it a pretty high score. I gave it an 8.75, and nobody seemed to be taking issues with the story. I think the story is good. I don't think the story is exceptional, but I thought the story was a much bigger focus than I expected. Lots of cutscenes, lots of dialogue, lots of back and forth with different characters. I did agree with ACG. It might have been ACG. It might have been IGN. They're blending together in my mind. Somebody basically said it was hard to have any of the characters stand out or be distinguished. Their names are all very similar. There's only so many different things they can do with their appearance and their clothing. They do sort of start to look similar. Even when you're creating your own Na'vi, the different skin patterns, it was kind of hard to tell the difference. The different skin tones were really cool. Make sure you check that out when you create your character. I didn't include that in my review because I didn't really fiddle around with the character creator. We just wanted to see if we could get this thing to run well on my PC, and I just kind of jumped in. I think the way the story kicks off is great. I think the way they let you customize your character is good enough, but I do think that makes it difficult. Like, you're sort of looking at the different, people. But I didn't see anybody say like, oh, the end of the game's terrible, or oh, the story just falls apart, or the gameplay just gets terrible. It seems like the gameplay continues in the way that you would expect in a game like this. It doesn't just dramatically shift. It gets a little bit harder. You get a little bit stronger. That's pretty predictable, but I don't think that's necessarily a problem. So overall, a brief review roundup I would give you is that there's seemingly no disagreement about the appearance of the game. Graphics are getting high praise. The world itself's getting high praise. Everyone's saying this looks so much like, the movies and the environments. But where the criticism seems to be coming from is repetition or sort of an uncompelling story. It's just sort of a bland story. I don't necessarily disagree with the fact that the story's not crazy creative. I don't typically expect that from a game like this. If I'm going for a narrative-focused game, that's when I expect longer scenes, more narrative, more character development. And that's just not what I expect from a game like this. So I think some of that's expectations. If you go into a game like this expecting the story to be pretty typical of a game like this and the gameplay to also be pretty typical, I think you'll have a fantastic time. I don't typically approach open world action adventure games with this idea that the story is going to be insanely compelling and interesting, or that the gameplay is going to be massively varied after, a 20-hour campaign. A 20-hour campaign, I expect to be repeating mission types. I expect there to be side quests and fetch quests and things like that maybe I have done before. And so I don't necessarily think they're wrong. I just think if you go in with those expectations, you're probably going to say similar things. I do think that the criticism about exploration and being able to tell what you can grab or where you can go, almost feeling somewhat lost, it can be a little irritating. I saw some people taking issue with that. I said in my review, I was always sort of torn with myself on this because I would feel my sense growing in frustration of I don't know where I'm supposed to go. I don't even know if I'm going the right way. And that can be irritating because you don't want to waste your own time. If you're like me, I have very short windows to play. I took about as much time as I could to put as much time into this game as I could for you guys. And again, we landed around 7 or so or more hours. And in that vein, I think if you have limited time, it can be really, really frustrating to feel like some of that time is being, wasted, feeling like, man, I've only got an hour or two here and I just came all the way over here. Or I just went all the way up here and I have no idea if I'm going the right way. The reason I always ended up disagreeing with myself on this is because I typically ended up finding the right way. I believe it was ACG who said just the natural flow of the landscape, oftentimes you would just go the right way. And I found that to be true a lot of the times for myself. And so I can see why people would be irritated by that. But I also think there's this complaint about Ubisoft games having an overwhelming HUD or an overwhelming UI or holding your hands too much. And that is something this game simply does not do. So I think that's interesting that people are taking issue with where they didn't really depart from a more typical action adventure open world Far Cry style game. They didn't depart from that, right? The story is very predictable in many respects. You just sort of have the bad guy and you're trying to get stronger to take down the bad guy. I think that's a fine story arc for games like this. Or they're taking issue with the fact that taking down the outposts and stuff feels typical or gets repetitive. So people will take issue with that, but then they take issue with the fact that it's not typical in the fact that it doesn't put yellow paint on the ledges for you to grab, and it doesn't tell you where to go sometimes. You literally can just sort of free form explore. You can jump and grab a ledge, jump and grab the ledge. Try it. If you want to jump up on these glowing lily pad mushrooms on the sides of trees, do it. Just see where you can go. I think that's kind of compelling and kind of exciting, but I can see why that would grate against somebody's expectations and experiences. Now, I do agree with ACG that the game does not start particularly strong. We didn't focus on that in the review. I mainly wanted to get to the meat of the game and its systems. And I do agree that the beginning of the game, I was like, I don't know about this. This is feeling kind of rough. It was real awkward cutscenes and fades. It was really not that great gameplay, but as soon as you get outside, everything changes. And I think that that's effective if people can push through and not write the game off. I don't think many people would do that. That'd be kind of awkward to I'm not playing this game, and they've only played for 5 or 10 minutes. Obviously, you would do that with a game if it was like broken or not running properly. But if you get outside, I really think as soon as the light hits your eyes and the color hits your eyes and the plant life's moving, it's like, and the water's there, I really think it's a compelling juxtaposition. I will say throughout the game, though, not just in the opening, there is something weird with the pacing. I think it's something with the engine. There's an engine level thing they have to do where if they want to go from you walking up to an NPC to a cutscene, they have to like fade to black and then sometimes even load and then fade back up. In a next-gen landscape where you play games, walk up to an NPC, and immediately you're in a cutscene, right? Like the seamlessness of like God of War Ragnarok or something. Or even like the literal no load times at all in Ghost of Tsushima. If you're coming from that, you might find that pacing to be a little awkward. I also found there to be an overabundance of cutscenes and dialogue in times where you're just sort of like standing there talking to people. You may like that. You may think this is awesome if you love the world of Pandora, if you love Avatar and the Na'vi and the voices. I think it's really enriching to the experience, but you can skip everything if you don't want to. So last night, I was playing on the PlayStation, so I'd obviously already experienced all these cutscenes and all of the dialogue. So I'm just skipping through. You just hold that button, and that's a nice feature, because if you're like, listen, man, I just kind of want to do the looties and shooties. I just kind of want to shoot stuff and gather. You can totally do that. You can totally do that. You just can like smash that button every time the dialogue comes up. I would encourage you to not do that if it's some of the more main characters or some of the more main story beats. You're going to really miss out on stuff, because I did that for the very, very beginning of the game, because we just wanted to get to the settings to see if I could adjust things on my PC. And when I rewatched that opening, I think some of the cutscenes and some of the voice acting was quite good, and I missed that because we were just trying to get to the settings. The way the game opens up, you can't do anything for a while. Like until you're sort of out in the world, then you can pause and tweak settings. So PS5, there is a performance option, and there are HDR options. Yes, Zubair, I turned HDR off, and I felt like I was getting better performance on my PS5. The performance mode is good. It is not perfect. There are noticeable hitches every now and again or frame drops. It's not maintaining 60 all of the time. I would say it's maintaining 60 most of the time. You're going to have to rely on Digital Foundry for that breakdown where they show you the graph. We obviously have to look and see as well, is it performing better on Series X versus PS5? Somebody was like, is it as bad as Final Fantasy 16? No, Final Fantasy 16 is the worst performance mode I've experienced on the PS5 with respect to being inconsistent. It is great in combat, and as soon as you come out of combat, it's like 30 to 40 FPS. There is, I said, nothing that egregious in Avatar. Played for a couple hours last night. Now, obviously, maybe in certain areas it's going to get worse for me. Funny enough, rain, you would think rain would make things worse. Rain made things better because I think it just limited how much was being rendered and how much the draw distance was being affected, because it almost creates like an area, like a fog effect. And rain helped, so I think they could maybe do an update similarly to what we saw with Jedi Survivor with the performance mode, where they were able to get it running significantly better. They could probably do some tweaking with draw distance. I think that would really rein in the performance mode and give it a more solid experience, because the game just is so lush. It is so full. You have an FOV adjuster on PS5 as well. I know people typically like that on PC, so that's good to see that on PS5. I reined it down to about a 90. That also seemed to help with frame rate. When I was up at like a 95 or 100, it seemed to stutter a little bit more because you're able to see more. So that's just going to make it a little bit more taxing on the consistency and the frames per second. So my experience on PS5 is good. Obviously on my PC, this game is very demanding. If you watched the review, my PC is a 2080 Ti and an i9 9900K CPU, an Intel CPU. And I did basically drop everything to medium and 1440, I believe. And when I did that, I got very, very consistent performance. I wasn't suddenly dealing with, I wasn't suddenly like, oh my gosh, it's stuttering all the time. The stutters virtually went away. So if you have a beefy machine, I think you're going to love this game. I would say on a beefy machine, this is going to be one of the best looking games available right now. This will likely rival some of the praise we've seen for Cyberpunk. with its recent update. I saw Alex from Digital Foundry, the good-looking dude from Digital Foundry over there, and he was saying that he thinks it's just magnificent looking. It's very beautiful. He had high praise for the appearance. So look for their videos, obviously, about the breakdowns and how it runs. So overall, I am disappointed to see it not scoring as well because, man, oh man, this made me look forward to Outlaws more, like Star Wars Outlaws more, like just treating what I feel like treating movie content well. I felt like Jedi Survivor and Jedi Fallen Order did that really well, and I feel like Avatar Frontiers of Pandora does that really well. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. That's just sort of an off-the-cuff, totally ad-lib opener to give you some more thoughts on the game. So I'm curious what you guys think. If you've got any questions, if you've seen anything in the reviews out there, you know, what are your thoughts on the game, whether or not you're going to pick it up. Seems like people dislike Ubi a lot lately. It's hard for me to not think that that's playing a role. It's so hard for me to not think that that's playing a role. Like, are people just being overly critical because the minute they sense something is similar to Far Cry, the minute they sense something is repetitive, they're like overly critical? Like, I don't know. Like, I've played a lot of games where there's outposts and you take out the outposts, and when you do the 7th one, it's going to feel really similar to the first 5 or 6 that you did. You know what I'm saying? Is it worth buying? I give it a good recommendation. If you like these kinds of games, if you like open world action games, if you like Avatar, I don't see why you wouldn't like this game. I really enjoyed it. I assumed I was going to boot it up and be like, yeah, you know, this is okay. You know, it feels like Liza P again in some regard. It really does feel like Liza P. It really, really does. It's like we're once again seeing a game get criticized for, like, that's literally what games like this do. There's going to be repeated actions. There's going to be repeated things. So, you know. By the way, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Very different format today. We opened with the premiere. Now we're doing a discussion. We will be doing gameplay after this discussion and this back and forth. We appreciate you guys supporting the channel. Really appreciate you guys supporting a review like that. Me getting early access and being able to record footage. I got my PC code. Let me tell you how long ago I got the PC code, because I know people are going to say you didn't put enough time in, but the PC codes, we did not have them for very long, and not only that, I got the PlayStation 5 code yesterday. So anybody looking for console reviews or console breakdowns, those codes went out later. So they were doing primarily. They were doing the PC first for whatever reason. I'm trying to see when I got my PC code. It was not that long ago. Let's see here. Yeah, I got my key late in the day on the 29th. Okay, so exactly 1 week. So I had the key for 1 week. They didn't, so I played as much as I possibly could. Basically, I couldn't play on Thursday and Friday and Saturday. So I was able to play. I had to start playing this weekend. My schedule was too full. So I got the key, but then we were doing stuff for, like, Christmas decorations on the house and stuff. So it's like I didn't even have a full week to play it. Sadly, I had to wait until the weekend in order to play it. And then I got my PS5 code like literally yesterday. So if you're looking for console reviews and console breakdowns, you might not see that many just yet. You might have to wait for some of those tech breakdowns. Joker Quinn kicks us off with the first gifted member. Thank you guys so much. We are trying to get back to 2,000 members. If you guys can get us to 2,500's community game night, if you guys want a night of Frickmas, I will do that on the 22nd. I'll sit down here. We'll have some drinks. We'll sing some carols. But that's going to be an incentive. And we want to do that again if you guys want to push really hard. AOZ says, do my kids love the Avatar franchise and watch the movies? How is difficulty in respect to needing more simple play? I was playing on the normal or the medium difficulty. I found it to be very easy. You could obviously lower the difficulty. I'm telling you, if you like Avatar, I can't see you not absolutely loving this game. It is beautiful. It looks like the movie. Like, I went and watched some footage of the first Avatar this morning because I was calling it an Ikran, and then I watched some videos and they were calling it an Ikran, and I was like, why are they saying it that way? I was like, did I say it wrong? And in the movie they say Ikran. They kind of have a bit of an accent, but they do say Ikran basically. And I was struck by how the first movie compared to this, I'm like, I think the video game might look better. Like, it's been a long time, so it's not necessarily a fair comparison. But the first Avatar, like, compared to this game, I think the game competes with how good the first Avatar looks. I'm not kidding you. It's that good. It's that pretty. That's not necessarily the gameplay. I get people, you know, having some gripes about gameplay, but in general, I would say that the appearance of the game is just remarkable. Polarin with 8 months in a VIP. Friggin' finally fixed this. Lost my 2-year badge, but YouTube support came in at least name-wise. Sorry about that, Polarin. 10 months from Kenneth Williams. Welcome back, Kenneth. Thank you very much. Something I occasionally struggle with in these big worlds is either every location feeling samey or every location feeling equally unfamiliar. Did you manage to get familiar with certain areas? Yeah, well, yes, because there are certain biomes and there are certain areas that are going to look different depending on where you are, and then the plant life changes, the weather changes, the animals change, because there's just different things that you might be looking for at a particular time. So I would say that yes, it does. Well, I'm going to say yes and no. It always feels like Pandora. It always feels like something right out of the movie. And yet you start to get familiar with certain areas. And then the use of pollution is like really cool. I don't know if you watch Avatar properly then, like off a Blu-ray or a current TV, that might be why they seem comparable. I mean, it was just a YouTube video, right? I'm not saying that, like, in its best scenario, I saw the first Avatar in theaters 3D, and it was probably one of the best cinematic experiences I've ever had. Like, it was remarkable. I remember the little floating things, like, floating in front of my face and being like, this is unreal. This is unreal. But I'm here to tell you, like, this game looks phenomenal. Like, the plant life, it's more, I would say probably the colors are a little bit more vibrant. They're not quite as, like the characters, especially in the clip that I saw, they're not like almost glowing. This game, almost everything has almost like a very, it's almost like they turn the saturation up, which I think is fine. I think it looks really good. It doesn't look bad. It's not like it's overdone. But in the realm of video games, I think this is going to get compared to, this is going to be up there on lists with Cyberpunk as like one of the prettiest games you can play on a beefy PC. And it was the first Avatar as well, so even on Blu-ray and on an amazing TV, I don't know how much, you know, better you can make that look. You're still dealing with older special effects. You're still dealing with an older approach to, you know, color palettes and animations and things. Like, it's always going to have, you're always going to feel the age of a movie after so long. I mean, when did the first Avatar even come out? The first movie. Very first one was 2009. Yeah. So, you know, 14 years is a pretty long time in the special effects business. VR gang gonna eat it up. I thought that numerous times, right? I thought this kind of looks and feels like a VR game. Like just the way. So there was a big question before the game came out about whether or not it should have been first person, right? There was a big debate about that. And I was one of the more outspoken people. I was like, why would you not make an open world action adventure game third person? Like, what? But then I played the game and I was like, yeah, this is the right choice. The one guy did the interview and he said they really wanted you to feel close to the world. They really wanted it to like feel like you were immersed into the world of Pandora. I will say they succeeded in that regard. I mean, you literally feel it feels pretty impressive. feels like you're there. It feels like when your hand reaches out to touch something, or you're just standing on a precipice and looking out. It is just remarkable how good it looks. And I will say, from a combat perspective, the guns and the bow feel really, really nice. And I think if that wouldn't have been the case, I would have been a little bit more inclined to be like, let me have a third-person option. But the gunplay feels tight. It feels very responsive. The bow feels tight. It feels responsive. It feels powerful. Patrick Q gifts a member. He says, come on, guys. Let's get this dude singing Christmas carols. You guys got a way to go if you're going to do that. That's 2 members on the day. Thank you so much, Patrick Q. I find it interesting that a lot of the lower scored reviews seem to say it's pretty much the same game we've played many times before. There's nothing horrible, but nothing great. 5 out of 10. Yeah, I don't think that's a legitimate way to review a game. I don't. I think what happens is, I think people are reviewing games and basically saying, well, it wasn't completely new and fresh from minute 1 to hour 25, so I'm gonna give it a bad score. It's like, no, wait a minute. Was it a good game? Did it have performance issues? No. Does it have any game design issues? No. So because it's familiar, because it does things that you've done before, you take points off. I think that's an illegitimate way to judge a game. We saw the exact same thing when we went and we looked at the negative reviews of Lies of P. It was like, yeah, it's too similar to FromSoft. And it's like, wait a minute. Did the game succeed in what it set out to do? If you judge it based on its own merits, is it good? Yeah, you would never judge a racing game that way. Yeah, an awful lot of steering in this. Awful lot of racetracks. I was doing a lot of left and right turns, so I've kind of done this before. Points off. It's like, it's an open world action-adventure game. Of course there's going to be outposts that you take down, and when you take down the 7th one, it feels familiar. That's how these games are made. I don't get it. GPC gifts a member, and it goes to Captain Steve. Good to see you, Captain Steve. Glad to have you on board with a membership once again. The other thing I think that's interesting is, I know people are going to say this, so I'm happy to engage in what I see as, preloaded toxicity or hate. The idea that, well, you didn't beat the game, you have no right to review it. I disagree with that for a handful of reasons. Number one, I broke down all the systems in almost the exact same way that every review I watched this morning did. And the other thing I want to disagree with is a lot of these review outlets got the code last week, put the game on easy, and flew through it. And then they're going to tell you that it was repetitive, or then they're going to tell you that, it just didn't seem like. It's like, okay, but you played the game in a flurry of blur so that you could get your review ready. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's like, I played 7 to 8 hours and extensively combed over the game and its systems. I played 7 hours on PC and 2 hours on console, and I dove in, combed over all the systems, soaked in the game and experienced the game. I would say that's a better review than one that just flies through the game so that they can say, I beat it, 21 hours, it's pretty repetitive, 6 out of 10. And it's like, it's a little too easy. Well, they're all playing on, they might be playing on easy mode. I will say, even on medium, it is pretty easy, though. Captain Steve pays it forward and gifts a member. He's like, I appreciate getting a gifted member, so I'm going to give one in return. Thank you, Captain Steve. Do you see what I'm saying? It's like, I think if you compare those two reviews, I would say that mine is better. Because you're not getting somebody who just absolutely forced themselves to fly through the game, check the box, and then they give you the review, and it's like, yeah, but of course it felt repetitive. You gobbled up the game in a matter of a couple of days. So it's like, yes. No, it is not just Far Cry with licensed IP patch notes. No. I went in expecting that. I didn't think I was going to like this game that much. I have played Far Cry 3, Far Cry 4, Far Cry 5, love them all in different ways. This is not Far Cry with a Avatar coat of paint on it. Absolutely not. You will notice similarities beneath the surface, but I think the beauty of the game, the gameplay, the world, the feel, the vibe, I think it outshines those systems. Those systems are there, but I think they fall below. Like, you don't really notice them as much. You notice just how this is my experience. You just notice how great the game is. Like, it's just a really enjoyable game. I plan on playing this off stream and beating it. I do. I plan on going through the map, and I'm going to play co-op with my wife. It has co-op. Did you know that? Did you know that it has cross-play co-op? Did you know that the co-op person that plays with you, it tracks their quest progress, and they get to keep all their gear and stuff that they earned? Imagine doing that with a co-op game, right? Stone Spire comes in with a gifted member and sets up the 20-bomb layup. 5 out of 25 sometimes tempts the big boys. Thank you so much, Stone Spire, for that setup. A bunch of the reviews basically just say that Far Cry reskin. Yeah, everybody went in with that pre-baked idea that that's what it was going to be. You know what I'm saying? Like, everybody went in with that idea of like, oh, it's just going to be Far Cry. So what do? They probably looked for all the similarities to Far Cry, and if you add them up, you can make a compelling case that it's Far Cry with Avatar paint. But that's because you're just looking for those things. Like, when I took down the outpost, sure, it was familiar. I was like, yeah, this is kind of similar to what I did in Far Cry, but it was completely different. Why? I had completely different objectives. There was a lot more verticality because I can jump high and grab ledges. I can slide really far. The enemies are completely different. The layout was far more creative and nuanced. It wasn't just, here's a base, here's a building, there's the alarm, there's some dudes patrolling. It felt completely different than that. So sure, I could look at that and be like, yeah, it's Far Cry. But it's like, that's not... I think it's unfair to review a game or judge a game based on similarities or familiarities to other game genres. That's not judging the game based on its own merits. It just isn't. And so, I would say the lowest I could see somebody giving this game would be like a 7.5 or so. I think once you go below that, I'm a little interested as to what you took a bunch of points off for. Like, what are you taking points off for goodness sakes? You know, ACG, if you go watch ACG's review, his review sounds almost exactly like mine. We thought almost the exact same things. So, you know, I know he tends to be a little bit more on the positive side, but I don't think he would be dishonest. I'm not being dishonest. Like, we're telling you what we experienced. The stealth play you did looked really dope. Yeah, the stealth actually works. The stealth actually works. It's like, I remember that in Far Cry. Like, I would take a sniper rifle, totally dead silence, and I'd take a guy out, and nobody would see me do it. And they'd be like, hey, what's over here? And then they'd be like, oh, he's over there. Like, they would immediately know. They would immediately know where I was. You know what I mean? It's unfair to review a game if you didn't finish it. I don't agree with you, and I don't do things according to the standards of people who just make up arbitrary rules. I think in a 7-hour review where I break down every system, that all you don't have from me is what's it like when your skill tree's full and how does the story end. Like, that's all you're not going to get from me. And guess what? Generally speaking, if I enjoy the first 5 or 7 hours of a game, and I relay that to you, and I tell you my experience, and I tell you what's good and what's bad, if you're like me, you're likely to enjoy the game as well. Have you ever had your friend recommend a game to you, and you're like, I don't want to hear what you have to say until you've beaten it, Dave? No. No, you're like, oh, it's good? Oh, wow. How long have you played? Oh, you've played for 7 hours? And you're having a blast? You're playing it right now? Oh, okay, I'm going to check that game out. If your friend told you that, you wouldn't be like, well, I can't take your opinion seriously until you roll credits. Like, we don't act that way. We only act that way in this environment. Why? Because essentially what is happening is is there is this anti-creator animosity that's growing in people. They hate the fact that people earn a living playing video games. So what they do is they create this self-righteous ideal paradigm where if you don't do what they think you should do, they judge you for it. It makes them feel powerful and good about themselves because they don't feel good about themselves. That's why they obsessively watch people that they don't enjoy and then criticize what they do because they're not happy. Like, that's what unhappy people do. So your point and your is stemming from that. It's stemming from this idea that, like, you can't review a game until you've beaten it. What are you talking about? Why? It's a 20-hour campaign. I played for 7 hours. I'm almost halfway through the main campaign. I can't tell you the good, the bad, the ugly. Like, I can't. How can I not relay that to you? What's missing? Well, end of the game skill trees and how the story ends. Let me ask you something. If you had a friend, let's say another way. If you had a friend who played this game and they got to hour 17 and life got complicated, their job changed, they weren't able to finish the game. And you're like, "Hey man, did you ever leave a review for that game? Did you ever go give it a score?" And they were like, "Oh yeah, I did." And they're like, "Well, did you beat it?" And you're like, "Well, no, I didn't." "Well, you didn't. You can't leave a review." It's like, people leave reviews on products all the time and haven't beaten them. Do you take user scores on Steam serious? If a game's reviewing really well on Steam, do you take that serious? Do you take it serious if a game reviews well on PlayStation or on Xbox? Do you double check and make sure all of those people that left reviews beat the game? Do you? If not, then you're a hypocrite. Anytime you've cited review scores on Steam, review scores on Xbox, review scores on PlayStation, if you've ever cited user scores on Metacritic, then you're a hypocrite. Because what you're doing is you're saying, well, these reviews are legitimate, even though there's no way to know that they've finished the game, but this review is not legitimate because this person didn't finish the game. That's hypocritical. That's inconsistent. It means it's driven by an agenda and not being a person of integrity and honesty and good faith. According to anyone that does reviews, for one, it's not a full review. And people that do reviews professionally finish the game. Again, if you've ever cited any of the reviews that I just talked about, then you're a hypocrite. And I don't really have an interest in listening to people that are like that. I don't think that that's a fair way to assess things. We do not look at Steam and say, okay, this game's getting a 91%. Yeah, but did everybody finish the game that left a review? No one does that. You don't. Anytime you look at a review on a game, you don't do that. You don't double check that. Why? Because there's not this weird seedbed of animosity towards creators that creates this suspicion of, well, you're lying or you're not to be trusted. Like, there's a massive difference between what I'm going to say if I get to hour 20 and roll credits and I played through the game as fast as I possibly could. Do you get what I'm saying? Like, I actually think the quality of a review can be far better if someone played half the game substantively and patiently as opposed to somebody who beat the whole game and they rushed through it so they could say, yeah, I beat it. I got to push back. That's a little heavy-handed. I think it's okay to expect complete games for reviews, but that doesn't set the standard for reviews for everyone. If you're going to question the authority of a review because somebody didn't finish it, then you have to do it everywhere. You're not allowed to review a power tool until it breaks. Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think you can say that. I think that's inconsistent. I think what you're saying is you're saying that it's good over here, it's valuable over here, it helps me make decisions over here, but over here it's not legitimate. And here's the other beauty of this. It's a supply and demand market. So if you think a review from IGN that's, how long are their reviews typically? I don't know, 8 minutes or so? Let's say 8 to 15 minutes. If you think that review is better because they finished the game, then watch reviews that are like that, right? At the front end of the review, he says, this is my review after 7 hours. Right. We're coming up with the POV of reviews after 5, where I played the game for a minimum of 5 hours, and I'm going to give you what I think, because a lot of the times, that's all people want to know. The average person that's making a decision on a game is not going to say, well, I need to know that you put in 50 hours or I don't want to hear what you have to say. Most people personally decide on a game in the first hours, right? Most people decide in the first few hours. They're like, yeah, this is a good game. This is a bad game. So we're coming up with a POV that's saying, listen, after 5 hours, I'm going to give you a review and tell you what I think. It's literally a point of view. It's literally a style of review to meet what I think is an audience that will say, I just want to know how good's the game? I'm getting home. I'm going to check this game out. I don't have time to play lots of games. Is this game any good, right? And if I open up the review and I tell somebody, hey, this is my review after 6.5 or 8 hours, if they know that watching the review and they continue to watch, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Now, if I would have done the review and made it sound like I had beat the entire thing, and then you find out later I didn't finish it, well, then I accept the criticism, but that's not what I did. I said it right at the beginning. I was like, yeah, this is basically a review after 5. After 5 hours, I think we can assess and review and critique and criticize systems in the game, gameplay, performance, voice acting, writing, direction, art. You can criticize and praise all those things. You mean you're in here criticizing a review you didn't even watch? Like I said, it's hypocritical. I don't think people are consistent. I think people make these types of criticisms because it's easy. It's easy to sit back and lounge back and say, I took more than 7 hours of gameplay. It was probably actually roughly 10 hours. Because there was all of the work when I was done playing. I would go make all of my notes, and then I had to upload all of the recorded footage. And then after that, I had to go back through all the footage and write my script and record all those individual segments. So it's like, I do all of that, and you're just going to lounge back and be like, yeah, well, you should have played for 10 more hours and rolled credits on it. And it's like, that's fine. You can have that opinion. Don't watch then. It's that simple. If you're looking for a review that has literally rolled credits or checked every box or got a platinum, then go watch that content. That's the beauty of YouTube. There's different content out there. You don't think it's repetitive, but reviewers do because they finished the game. No, I actually think that what I said against what they said about it being repetitive, I wouldn't say that after finishing the game because I've played all sorts of games like this. I saw all the reviews said the exact same thing about the Far Cry games, and I always defended the Far Cry games for the exact same reason. I said the same thing. I would be like, listen, that's what these games do. You're going to go to a new area, and you're going to have a fetch quest, a chase quest. You're going to have outposts, right? That's just going to be the nature of these games. Like, I don't think you can play an open world action adventure game and be like, it was similar to Far Cry, I'm taking points off. I had to do another outpost and it felt the same as the last one. That's how these games are designed. I mean, goodness, there were dungeons in Elden Ring that felt the same as the last. They used the same boss. The layout felt very similar. The boss room was the same. But nobody would ever criticize that and say that that's bad. That's the nature of filling an open world map. You're going to have things that repeat themselves. You're going to have things that feel similar, like melodically, rhythmically. Like they're just going to show up and you're like, yeah, I've done this before. Some games don't get repetitive until later in the game. 7 hours is pretty early. Again, I did not make my review about that. I didn't say in my review that it doesn't get repetitive. So now you're moving the goalposts. They said it got repetitive. So you got to take what they said, and you got to take what I said, and you got to make your own mind up. I didn't say, yeah, I played 7 hours, it doesn't get repetitive. I didn't say that. I said that I find that to be a strange criticism of an open world action adventure game where that's what they do. That's what you do in these games. Like, you're going to do the same things over and over again. There's going to be a content loop where you're hunting an animal, well, I've already hunted this animal before, or I've already taken these outposts down before, or I've already made these meals, or I've already crafted this, I'm crafting a stronger one now, or, I need these materials. Like, that's how these games operate. That's why I think it's a weird criticism to be like, because they didn't say there was too many outposts. They didn't say there was too many outposts. They said the outposts felt the same as the last one. And I said, that's how these games work. Did you ever play a Far Cry and not think that? You were like, well, this outpost felt an awful lot like the last one. You've never gone into an area in Assassin's Creed where you're not supposed to be and you have to sneak around and kill some guys and then you loot some of the treasures and then you leave and you don't think, well, that felt really similar to the last one. The game's 20 hours long. He's played over a third of the way through the game. Use your brain. Yeah, according to UB Connect, I'm like 36% of the way through or whatever. If someone watched 2/3 of a movie, would you accept that person reviewing a game? You're being intentionally dichotomous and divisive to draw a line and to say that if you don't watch it, it's not a review. I'm saying this is literally allowing people to make up their own mind. I said in the very beginning of it that I've played for 7 hours. Here's the review. That's what I said. And if somebody watches that entire review, they are getting good information. They're getting breakdowns of the sections of the game, the hunter's guide, the mods, the skill trees, the gameplay, the combat, the performance. They're getting all of that. The only thing you're not getting is, well, how does it feel near the end of the game? And in my estimation, games like this do not fall apart like halfway through or in the second half. All you're going to hear from these people is they didn't say it got bad. They didn't say it got terrible. They said it got repetitive. But that's open world action adventure games. I've never played an open world action adventure game, whether it's Horizon or Tsushima or Far Cry or Assassin's Creed. I have never played one of those games and not had it get repetitive in the second half or the end. That's how these games operate. So it's weird for your professional reviews that you think are better. It's weird for them to cite criticism that you could basically lobby at any open world action adventure game. You could literally copy-paste that criticism and say it for every Far Cry, for every Assassin's Creed, for every single, for Horizon Zero Dawn and Forbidden West. You could. You can do that for Spider-Man 2. But that's open world games shouldn't be an excuse. It's not an excuse. You're misunderstanding what I'm saying. That's what the games do. When you get a game like that, that's what it's going to do. It's not an excuse. You're literally saying that a driving game has too much driving the longer that you play. It's like an open world action-adventure game. That's what they do. They create a variety of content loops, and then they put them on a map. That's what they do. That's not a criticism. That's a defining identity marker of the genre. And to play it and then criticize it for doing what the genre does is weird. I'm not allowed to say that open world games are bland. No, you're putting words in my mouth. I never said that. I said that criticizing an open world game, an open world action adventure game, for doing what open world action adventure games does, it's weird. It doesn't feel like a valid criticism. Every single time if you play Skyrim, if you play Fallout 4, you get far into the game and you're doing things that you've already done. That's what they do. Like, it's a cave. It's a cave to clear. It's an outpost to clear. Like, now I would say Skyrim was more varied in some respects, but there was still stuff that you were doing that you're like, yeah, I've done this before. Not an MMO, but a standard open world action adventure game. Yeah, anytime I've purchased and played an open world action adventure game, I don't think I've ever thought, well, this game better not get repetitive in the end. They all get repetitive in the end. That's what you're doing. That's what games do. They repeat things. They repeat loops. Surprised that review scores were this low. I thought this game was going to land in the mid to high 80s. I was like, this is a good game. I can't imagine taking that many points off or scoring a game at like a 6 or a 5 for doing what every other open world action adventure game does. It's weird. I see games getting low scores because they're bad games. They're glitchy, they're buggy, they don't work well, they're bad quality. I've never seen a game be like, yeah, well, it gets repetitive at the end, 6, 5, like, what? Like, that seems like such a minor, on the scale of things that games get criticized for, that seems awfully minor, doesn't it? Like, it was like people scoring Liza P low and being like, yeah, it's too similar to FromSoft games. And it's like, wait, I don't understand. Does that make it bad? It's called lack of innovation. I don't agree. I don't think you have to reinvent the wheel. I don't think you have to re-innovate every system in a game every time you make it. I think that's ridiculous. To expect a company to make a game this size with the level of graphics that they're offering you and the level of polished gameplay, and then to also within that be like, you know what, I really think they need to completely innovate and reinvent all the systems beneath the game. Like, I think you're asking for a game that wouldn't be built in 5 or 6 years. You're asking for a game that would be built in 7 to 8 years. And we talked about that yesterday. If the development cycles of games get that long, you're going to start getting games that were developed too long ago. If somebody starts developing a game right now and takes to heart what you're saying, it's going to take them way longer to build the game. And that means it's going to take way longer to come out, which means by the time it comes out, who knows where the market is? Who knows where, customer expectations are? Who knows where graphical performance is? We set out with the goal of making a short 30,000-foot review for the casual gamer. Right, that's the point. Like, if you want a review from somebody who put in more hours than me, that's in great supply. Like, that's in great supply. There's so many, you can go watch 10 reviews like that right now. Like, we said, hey, you know what? We're going to do a review after 5. Lono's got limited time. If he gets a review code a week before a game comes out, he can probably put in anywhere from 5 to 10 hours. And we think that's an ample amount of time to put together a review that covers most of the game. Because, you know what's funny is you're contradicting yourselves right now. Those of you that are like, well, you can't review a game if you haven't played past, the first 5 or 10 hours. Yeah, you have to finish the game. You have to finish the game. But then you're going to go and cite the reviews that are calling it repetitive. And it's like, oh, so I'm right then. I'm right. The game doesn't change in the second half. Largely, the content loops and the patterns set in the first half of the game remain true throughout. So you're justifying my viewpoint that you can make a review of a game after 5 or 10 hours. You can. Does it dramatically change in the second half? It doesn't. So why is the review less legitimate? Does the combat dramatically change? Does the crafting? Does the modding? Does the graphical performance change? Does the world itself change? Does the questing change? Does the story pacing change? No? Oh, so you just completely justified reviewing a game after 5 or 10 hours. That's interesting. See, like I said, people aren't consistent. People aren't consistent. I've quit playing games in far less than 5 hours. I do think you have to play enough. I would say at least enough to unlock all the systems and features. Mash says you can review it after 10 minutes as long as you say that you played it for that long. To do a proper review, you should play every aspect of a game, but one can give impressions if they don't feel like finishing it. I don't agree with you. I've watched plenty of reviews that haven't gone through every aspect of the game. I've watched plenty of reviews. So every aspect of the game. So you can't review Elden Ring until you've played every playstyle and used every weapon. That's every aspect of the game. You can't review a game until you've played its New Game Plus. You can't review Lies of P until you've played all the different playstyles and all the different weapons and done New Game Plus, because that's every aspect of the game. Your position is just absolutely extreme. Nobody does that. You understand what y'all are doing, right? You're defending a meta of people that rush through games to satisfy your weird desire for them to have finished it, and what they often give you is less substantive than what I did after 7 hours. Right? You're defending a meta that we are often critical of. The review outlets have limited time, and they rush through the game, often on the easiest setting. And then you get like this very superficial review of the game. That's oftentimes why you might feel like a game scored better than it should have. You're like, why'd they give it such a good score? Because they flew through it on easy and didn't actually break down any of the systems or the gameplay loops or the player incentivization. So you're literally defending a meta that the gaming community is commonly critical of because you think, well, you've got to play longer to do what they do. Okay, sure, I'll put it on easy, fly through it, beat the game, and then will that make my review any better? I could have done that, by the way. It wouldn't have been difficult. Throw it on easy, skip all the cutscenes, fly through the game, get the checkbox. I'm like, yeah, I rolled credits on it. For the sake of argument, we grant that the word review implies roll credits. Is there a better term for a 5-hour review? Maybe easiest to sidestep than hold the line. No, because I don't make content according to what people that are automatically critical of me are going to do. I don't. I have never and will never make content because of sideline critics. I don't care what they think. I don't. If you want a review... If you want a review that is substantive, that is 20 or 30 hours, and they've rolled credits, there's literally, what's the difference between me and them at that point? We're both doing the exact same thing. It's not an impression. Impressions is after like an hour. I've done first impressions before. First impressions is literally, I played for an hour, here's how the game feels. I'm getting good 60 FPS. The guns feel nice. Like, that's first impressions. You really think first impressions is what I just did? A 23-minute video breaking down every system in the game. You think that's impressions? That's not first impressions. First impressions is, I played it for like an hour. Here's my first impressions. I played for 7 hours, recorded individual segments, individual scenes, and covered every aspect of the game. The only thing you didn't get from me was, what's it feel like in the end game? That's the only thing that's absent from my review. You can do impressions off of a video clip. Well, generally, first impressions, people want to know how the game feels. Like, they're wanting to know, does it feel good? Like, usually, that's what people get from a gameplay video. Anytime I've done gameplay of a game on its launch date, anytime, it's usually a watch time average is like 5 minutes. People watch for 5 minutes. They're like, yeah, I want to know how's the game feel. That's all they really want to know. They're not looking for, like, an exhaustive breakdown. That's why gameplay videos do well, but they don't tend to have like a long sticking point. Like, unless you're known for total playthroughs, or you're like MK Ice and Fire or Fire and Ice and you upload like entire playthroughs. Generally, when we do gameplay, you get small watch time because people are just like, oh, how's it feel? You know, are the guns good? You know, is the movement good? Things like that. I don't mind you not reviewing the full game, but it's unfair to say that someone who rushed the story a bit didn't interact with the game. Completing the game automatically leads to interaction. I didn't say that they didn't interact with the game. I said they interacted with it differently. Like, I took the time within 7 hours to substantively break down and analyze and put together a review that gives you a very comprehensive look at the game. And a lot of the reviews I've listened to over the years, you can tell the person put it on easy, flew through the game, and they're giving you a generic, canned summary of the game, not an assessment of its quality, not at all like a breakdown of how the content loop feels. It's just this very canned thing. That's why I think they say things like, it's really pretty and it feels good, but it gets repetitive. And it's like, well, when you rush a game, it's going to feel repetitive because what you're doing is you're moving everything close together. You're moving everything close together. Because if for the next 13 hours I continue to play how I'm playing, it's not going to feel repetitive because I'm not jamming everything down into a small space. Because if you're doing an outpost and you're rushing a playthrough, you're going to do the next outpost closer to the last one. You are. So it's going to feel more repetitive because you went faster, so you got to it quicker. So that familiarity triggered right away. I'm not doing that. I'm taking my time. I'm wandering around. I'm doing side quests. I'm hunting. I'm gathering. But if you have to rush to the end to get your review done, you're going to be like, well, that was kind of repetitive. The IGN review didn't tell me anything. I had to look up more reliable reviews where they took their time. Zubair says, Zubair has a good question. Hang on a second. Why isn't there space for both points of view? That's what I'm saying. Like, this is why I don't appreciate this, because I feel like it's an underhanded way to continue the narrative that I'm not to be trusted and that I'm a fraud and that you shouldn't watch me. That's what it feels like. It feels like this underhanded nonsense where, like, there's so many different viewpoints out there. There's so many different channels that you can watch. There's so many different types of content. If you want a review that's 35, 45 minutes, they did everything they possibly could. You know, they combed over every system. They beat the game. They rolled credits. They platinumed it. There are channels that do that. That's not the kind of gamer that I am. That's not the POV I've ever had. My POV has always been, you can play a game for 2 hours and know whether or not it's going to hook you. You can know that. And I believe you can do a review of a game after 5 or 10 hours. Not every game, mind you. Some games are way too big and way too long. I don't think you'd be able to do a very good review of like AC Valhalla after 5 or 10 hours because there was a lot of endgame systems that you didn't even get to see until like the 20th hour or something. Like that game was just too dense. There are certain games where it's just too dense to do that. But a game like this, are you serious? You honestly think a game with a 20-hour campaign can't be reviewed after 7 hours? Like, that's ridiculous. That's a third of the game. It's an open-world action-adventure game. It's not going to completely change when you get to the second half. Everyone's allowed to have their own POV and do things their way, except Lono. As long as you said that you haven't completed the game at the start of the vid, which you said, people don't really have any reason to complain. You can only review on Steam after you've played after 2 hours. That's not true. You can review games under 2 hours. That's not true. You can review a game on Steam if you haven't played for 2 hours. I've seen reviews on there like less than an hour. At Platinum Valhalla, I knew exactly what it was after 10 hours. I'm just saying it wouldn't be as good of a review because you wouldn't be able to break down certain systems. There'd be entire systems in Valhalla you wouldn't even be able to talk about. I was able to talk about all of the systems in Avatar. That's why I was glad I got to the flying, because that was the only thing I hadn't done yet. It was like, okay, I've got everything that you can do, from the crafting, the cooking, the hunting, the gathering, the hunting quests, the side quests, the clans. Like, I had all of that. The only thing I didn't have was the flying. If I wouldn't have gotten to the flying, it would have dramatically, I think, hurt the video, because it's like, well, that's a huge portion of the game. It's not your score that's getting counted in Open or Metacritic. Yeah, my score is not on Open or Metacritic. It's a point of view. I think you can make an assessment of a game of whether or not you're going to like it in the first 2 hours. For the more casual gamer that's incredibly busy, here's a review after 5. 30,000 foot breakdown of the game, 5 to 10 hours. do I recommend it? And if I say that in the beginning, you know the POV. And if you're like, well, I don't want a review like that, guess what? You can literally leave the review. You don't have to watch it. I just want to say that you did a great job with the review. Please keep doing these when possible. Don't let the dum-dums discourage you. And everyone who has a problem with him using review, let me know. Yeah, I think First Impressions really sells the video short and the work that we did. If you want a First Impressions video, I'll play the game for an hour and give you First Impressions. He's not answering questions about the game. He's just arguing with the nerds. Well, I mean, we got caught up in this discussion. I think it's a fair discussion to have, to be like, this is my POV. Take it or leave it. Like, I'm not going to change my POV or my verbiage because people want to gatekeep the internet. If I want to call something an RPG, I'll call it an RPG. And you can clip me and put me in salt content. I don't care. You don't affect me. That's what I'm going to do. If I want to do a review after 9 hours, I'll do a review after 9 hours. I don't care what these people think. If you're going to gatekeep terminologies and words and what people can or can't say, I'm not interested in talking to you because you're a conversation killer. You are communally and conversationally tyrannical. It's impossible to have good and healthy conversations with people who try to govern what you can or can't say. You belong in a regime somewhere policing what people say, because that's what you're doing. Like you're acting like I can or can't say something. I'm not interested in talking with people like that. That's communally tyrannical. It's like you don't let people say certain things without wagging your finger in their face. That just isn't conducive to conversation. You have to have agreed upon definitions to have good communication, and I think the insistence that review must always mean this is ridiculous. It's a liquid term. You can go to Steam, you can go to Amazon, you can go to Metacritic, you can go to all these different places, and you can quite literally read reviews of people who haven't finished the game, and it influences what you think. You get an aggregate score from people who have not finished the game. Let's talk about this. Have you guys ever looked at review scores of a game within the first 24 to 48 hours? Have you ever done that? Have you? Have you allowed that to affect your opinion of the game? That's interesting, because there's no way any of those people finished the game. Game's been out for 24 to 48 hours. Unless every single person that reviewed the game no-lifed the game and didn't sleep, the average game that's being reviewed within the first 24 to 48 hours on Steam, or the Metacritic user scores, or like Xbox or PlayStation, if you allow those reviews to influence your thoughts on a game, you think, this game's crushing it, it's doing great, it's got a 90% on Steam, then you have absolutely no right to come to me and say you can't use the word review. Now, I'm done defending myself on this. I want to move on and talk about the game, because I don't care. They got their clips. They're all going to salivate on Twitter and call me names because their daddy pay attention to me issues are as visible as their loneliness. Like, I don't care about defending myself on this anymore. Diaz says, simply put, a first impressions video is about how the game affects your senses, how it looks and feels. A review is about how the product works, why it exists. And I believe I satisfied that in the review. I broke down every system in the game. It's 23 minutes. And if you want to know what I think of all of those systems in the game and how they work and what they're like, you get that in my review. The only thing you don't get is endgame, and I don't talk about the story. That's not an interest to me in a non-spoiler review, because it's hard to talk about a story and not spoil it. So, I'm getting asked questions about performance on PlayStation 5. I played it last night for 2 hours on PlayStation 5. The performance mode is good. It's not perfect. They're going to probably need to patch it. It runs, I would say, on a scale of like really bad performance that we got in performance modes in Jedi Survivor. Let's call that a 10 on the scale of, like, it's bad. Okay, so Jedi Survivor was really bad. I think Final Fantasy 16 on a scale of 10, 10 being the worst. I think Final Fantasy 16's performance mode is like a 6. It's not terrible, but it's also not very good. I would lower it even more for this game. I would say this game's performance mode is good. But it's got room. If we're going to give a perfect score and say there's 0 issues all the way down here, it's getting a 0. No, I think this game's getting like a 1 or maybe a 2 on its performance. Like, I have to say, there's enough stutters and hitches to say they're going to need to patch something. Funny enough, I said this in the open of this show. In the open of this show, I said, rain actually helps performance, which is crazy to me. You wouldn't expect that. You would not expect there to be, like, more environmental effects suddenly causing the frame issues to get better. But what I think the rain does is it creates a fog effect. So draw distance gets reined in. And I think that's the main issue. So they could likely push out a performance mode patch to help and assist with that. Does it use dynamic resolution on the PS5? My eyes aren't good enough to pick up on that. I don't think it says in the settings whether or not it does that. I could obviously boot the game up and see to whether or not it does that. Because I don't know if it says in the menu. I think it just says it prefers performance or something to that effect. And again, I couldn't include that in my review because I had the PlayStation code came like yesterday, so I was able to play last night, and I was able to play last night, and I didn't like exhaustively check every little thing. I was just trying to get it to run well. Lono, you're going back on the change of tone. You were talking about being dismissive of people that don't agree it's a review is wrong, in my opinion. I'm going to be dead honest with you. I talked about changing my tone with respect to people who like a game or a box more than I do, or they like a console more than I do. The people that come in and want to be critical of me and disrupt the show and be critical of my content, I don't need to have a change of tone with you. I want you to feel like I am being dismissive because that's not what the talk show's about. The talk show is not about, hey, what do you think of my content? Do you think I should do it differently? Do you think I should use different words? That was not the invitation today. The invitation was, come discuss the game. And you decided instead to come in and discuss whether or not I should use a certain word. I got words to say to you, and it's, I don't care what you think. I don't. If you don't like the talk show, the monologue, if you don't like me using the word review, if you don't like me using the word RPG, you can take your opinions about that, put them in a box, and keep the box shut. I don't care what you think. I care what you think about video games. I care what you think about, is Xbox leaving hardware? I care what you think about that. I care what you think about the game that you played, or the GTA trailer, or microtransactions, or pay to win. I care what you think about that. I don't care what you think about me. I don't care what you think about my content. I've never booted up and been like, all right, guys, on a scale of 1 to 10, did I use all the right words? Like, that's not what the content's about. Like, this idea that, like, hey, man, you just put 7 hours into a game, 3 hours into saving all the footage and writing everything up, and then another 2 hours writing a script and recording the segments. So, hey, man, you just put 12 hours into that review. Let me tell you why I don't think you should call it a review. I don't care what you think about that. I don't consult with you and ask your opinion on my business decisions. And it just smacks of this weird meta now. It's just this weird energy of like trophy checking and you didn't beat the game so you can't talk about it, right? Like when I talked about Hogwarts Legacy. I got a bunch of grief because I didn't beat Hogwarts Legacy. And it's like, 30 to 40 hours isn't enough for me to talk about Hogwarts Legacy? It's the same energy. It's the same energy. And if you bring that energy to my channel, then I don't want it. I don't want that here. It's like, it's supply and demand. It's very simple. Like, if that's the kind of review that you want, then why don't you go consume those? I make it very clear. I'm a casual player. I have limited time to play games, and the POV of my review is, here's the game after 5 or 10 hours. Here's what I think. Here's the systems. Here's the quality. Here's the value. And if that POV to you is not interesting, the beauty of the internet is just don't watch it then. There's so many reviews out there. And the other thing is if you're interested in my POV and what I think, you got it. You got that. If you're like, well, I want to know what Lono thinks about the game. You got that. You got what I think. You don't care what I think until I roll credits? That's weird. I've seen a lot of critics hate on it or say it's mid, but personally, I trust someone like ACG, not IGN or journalists, and he was positive. Yeah, I watched his review this morning, and he echoed so much of what I said. Like, I think he and I see games very similarly. And I was listening to him talk, and I was like, oh, he's right. Yeah, I noticed that too. Oh, yeah, that I like that too. Are the haptics good on PC? This is going to sound crazy. I need to test this. I felt like the haptics worked better on PC. So there's this thing you do where you go up to a circle. I'm sorry, you don't go up to a circle. You go up to this thing, and you have to hold the trigger down, and you have to line it up with the circle. And once you line it up, it quickly buzzes, and then it almost like depresses. It's almost like the air gets let out of the controller. It's like tss, is what it feels like. And when I did it on my PlayStation 5 last night, it didn't feel the same. I need to test this. Like, I need to side by side it and have it booted up on my PC, because I've got two dual senses right here, and find a spot and be like, why did it not feel that way? You need to make sure your settings are similar. Yeah, maybe I've turned it down on my PS5 or something. It didn't feel the same. It felt like, this is how it felt on the PS5. I was holding down, found the sweet spot, and then it just stopped resisting. And I was like, but on the PC, it was like I held down, it was like, it has this I don't know how to explain it other than that with the sound effects in my fingers. It honestly felt better on the PlayStation 5. There's haptics on PC. If you use a DualSense controller, yes. So I'll have to check my settings on the PS5, because I feel like it felt better on the PC. I was like, what the frick? I was like, why? Oh, hang on. I don't have the cable plugged in. Give me 1 second. Okay. I'm going to boot up the game, but before I do that, I'm going to check my controller settings on the PS5. Trigger effect intensity. Set the level of force and tension that's applied when pressing L2 or R2. When you're using the microphone or controller, the intensity is set to weak. If you're using a headset, I have it off. That's why. I remember we turned that off because of Synapse. Do you remember? In Synapse, I would go to pull the trigger to shoot the gun. It would resist at the last second, and I kept missing headshots. That's what it was. It was literally a setting. It was literally a setting in the game. Hang on, that's the wrong cap card. Right there. Trigger effect intensity. I had it off, and I just turned it to strong. I thought when I turned that off, I was turning that off for my PSVR 2 controllers. I thought it was like specific to the individual controllers. Because look, this is how I got here. When I did it with my PSVR 2, I came down here, I clicked on accessories, it had the little icon for my PSVR 2 controller, I clicked on it, and then I went into controller settings. I thought it was having me change the settings on the PSVR 2 controller. Does that make sense? So when I turned that off, I didn't know I was turning that off for every game. I thought I was turning it off, not for every game, I'm sorry. I didn't know I was turning that off for all of my controllers. You're the worst pony ever. I turned it off for, I thought I was turning it off for my PSVR 2 controllers. They're different. You know? Was ready to talk big. Pony confusing the UI. Yeah, like I said, I went down to that little menu and the icon was for the PSVR 2 controllers. It's like the circle controller, and I was like, oh, I'm gonna turn it off for these. I think it's profile based, not controller based. Well, now I realized what happened is it took me into the actual PlayStation 5 settings. It's a global setting that I'm changing when I do that. So it would be really nice. I actually said this to the guys at Synapse. I wanted the resistance in the trigger on the left trigger, but not the right trigger, because resistance on the left trigger keeps you from blowing up the barrels, because it like stops halfway and you got to squeeze harder to blow the barrel up. And I was like, I want to be able to control it on individual, like, because I didn't want it on this one, because that's my shooting. And it's like, I'm not kidding you. It would make the controller move just a teeny bit, which doesn't matter when you're aiming on a traditional controller, but when you're aiming in VR, if your hand moves even like a millimeter, it's going to affect where the bullet goes. I don't know why you're spamming that, Team Ambush. DK Bager gifts a member. Let's get the member goal going, guys. We got a long way to go if you want me singing Christmas carols and a night of Frickmas on the 22nd. We got a ways to go. We're going to see some big member train days, sitting at 6 out of 25. There's 450 people here and 200 likes. I appreciate it very, very much. Most games with haptics on PC need wired connection. Oh, I don't know about that. I have it plugged in, but I don't know if that's a requirement. Can't you Bluetooth? Couldn't you conceivably connect a DualSense to Bluetooth to the PC? I've never done that. I always just plug in. Yeah, 5 Seraphite. Yeah, if you guys want some drinks and some caroling on the 22nd, you guys have got a long way to go. What were carols? I request 10,000 reasons. I wouldn't start making requests until you guys get close to the goal. We don't even have 2,000 members yet. We need another 100 members before you can even consider going for like community game night. No, I did not get a chance to try co-op. I'll probably try that with my wife, because we've actually been looking for a really fun co-op game to play. And I remember wanting to play Far Cry 6 with her, but Far Cry 6, she wasn't going to have like her own character and her own gear and her own skill tree. Well, in this game, you will, and your quest progress, you keep your quest progress. So unlike other co-op games like Dying Light and Redfall, where only the host's progress is tracked and saves, it saves both. It saves both in this game. So, Lego Fortnite could be a fun community night. Is that live right now? Is it literally just Fortnite with Lego characters? I haven't been able to take a look at it. Personally. Is that literally all it is? I saw it in my feeds and I just never took the time to watch it. I've been too busy. Game Awards co-stream tomorrow. Thank you so much, Keely. It's live tomorrow. Lego Fortnite mode early gameplay and all skins. Is this guy for real? Did he actually get it, or is this a bait video? It looks like people are lying. Well, here's the cinematic reveal trailer. Does it show? So is it just literally you're running around Fortnite with Lego characters? It looks like it's going to have RPG elements and monsters and stuff. Wait a minute. Is this? Look. Do you guys remember? Do you remember when we speculated about the RPG mode? Do we know what it's going to entail? That's 4 people with 4 different weapons. There's a crossbow, there's an axe, there's a pickaxe, there's a sword. I mean, I guess those all could be pickaxes. It's not Fortnite. It's the survival mode. Huh. It's Minecraft, but Lego. It's a Lego mode, not a skin drop. Yeah, I didn't get a chance to look into it because the last couple times we tried to cover Fortnite, it doesn't seem like there's a lot of interest in our audience. And I myself struggle to get into Fortnite because we'll play it for a little bit and then I enjoy myself and then I feel like it gets kind of sweaty. But I actually thought the no build OG was a lot of fun with you guys. This person appreciated me mentioning outstanding sound design. The sound design in the game is excellent. I thought it was awesome. I always like when games have good sound design, and it's always a shame when it doesn't get mentioned enough. I was glad that ACG mentioned the good sound design as well, because I feel like sound design only gets mentioned like if it's bad. You know what I mean? It only gets mentioned if it's bad. It's still kind of a waste. Hour and 20. Okay. Yeah. By the way, if you guys are daily watching the live streams, today was a little bit different. Yeah, I got my official co-stream pack. Yes, for the Game Awards. Today was a little bit different. This is not going to be a format going forward where we do like a premiere and then have a live stream after the premiere. But what we are going to try going forward is, instead of the live stream getting scheduled at like 8:16 in the morning, and then I go live between like 9:30 and 9:45, we're going to start scheduling the stream and then going live like 5 minutes later. YouTube is pushing live streams a little bit harder, and we actually feel like that's going to be a better choice than having the live stream sit for so long when I'm not live. When the stream is scheduled, it's being treated like I'm already live and I'm not. It's like taking the live stream and putting it out in feeds and stuff, and it's like, but I'm not live yet. Please don't do that yet. So for those of you that like to kind of like pile into the stream, you're going to have to start like basically coming to the stream around 9:30. You'll see it suddenly scheduled. You'll see it suddenly, featured, and you should get a notification. So make sure your notifications are turned on, okay? This means I'm going to have to be a little bit better about starting right at 9:30 in order for, expectations to be met. I admit I haven't been good with that. Part of that's because I go too long in the writer's room with the Reforge writers, and then I don't have enough time to write my monologue. So we're going to have to be better about that. But you are no longer going to be able to, like, pile in the live stream at, like, 8:20 and sit for, an hour and wait for the stream to start. We're not going to be doing that any longer. And that's going to be a change that might surprise some people. And they're like, "Hey, where's the stream?" And hopefully, yes, that means I'm not turning on the stream so late so often. And I wish that wasn't something that happens as many times as it did. I was breaking my back trying to be better about that, but it gets really hard. I put a lot of work into the monologue and the research, and that just tends to sometimes bleed over into the next day. And it also tends to be tough because sometimes the kiddos need help, or they're trying to get out the door, and I'm trying to help them, and I'm trying to get back down here. So, is it putting it out as a live stream when you are late? No, it does it as soon as I schedule the stream, Zelda. The whole time. So even if I started on time, from 8:16 to 9, it would be 44 minutes of just wasted opportunity. Because, like, YouTube's like, "Hey, man, here's this video." And people are like, "It's not a video. It's a scheduled live stream." So even today, what I did was, you guys may have noticed, I scheduled the Avatar premiere. If you haven't watched the Avatar premiere, the Avatar review, make sure and check that out. And monologue not needed, honestly, I completely disagree with you, and you're wrong as well, based on everything we've done and researched. So we scheduled the Avatar Frontiers of Pandora review discussion that we're doing right now. I scheduled it at 8:55, right? And we went live at 9:30, and we still, during that window of time, we still got like 6,000 impressions. It still threw the video out there and put it in front of people. And it was like, what the world? Like, that was 35 minutes. Like, I scheduled at 8:55, I went live at 9:30, right after the premiere, and it still did it to us. It's like, come on. Come on, dude. Monologue's massive. Yeah, the monologue's a huge draw. It helps the past broadcast because people get my thoughts. They basically get a YouTube video at the beginning of the stream. Yeah, the monologue is not going anywhere. That would be foolish. It's basically a staple of the content and a staple of what I do. I really enjoy doing it. I think it's excellent content. I think the video opening up with like a sentence would be terrible content. It'd be like, he woke up and said, like, he went live and said, like, one thing. The opening of the video was a sentence, and all of a sudden he's, like, talking to the live audience. Live audience isn't even really humming yet in the first 60 seconds of the video because they're either buffering, piling in, trying to, get chat set up, wherever they are. So, yeah. I need to be informed about the discussion topic, says Zubair. I'm not going to be doing all the research. Right, and I think that helps people. It's like, oh, what happened? People are like, what happened with the trailer? Like with the GTA 6 trailer, people might not know what happened, and then they get like a nice opener and be like, oh, wow. And then it sets the table for the discussion. Here are my thoughts and my conclusions is why I came back. What do you mean that's why you came back? Explain that to me. Oh, I enjoyed the monologue. Oh, I understand what you're saying. If there was no monologue, how would we know what to discuss? Right. Listen, I know I got defensive on this review thing, but, like, I just am so fed up with the self-righteous gatekeeping. It's just exhausting. I'm going to do my content the way I'm going to do my content. Take it or leave it. Like, that's it. That's the way that it's going to be. I'm not here to give quarter to fools. I'm just not. And the minute somebody's going to start saying something that I know is echoed by my haters, I'm not going to give you a whole lot of room to talk here because I just feel like that's unproductive to allow that. And if that means you say less or watch less, there's nothing I can do about that. You didn't get defensive? I mean, I felt like I got defensive, because it was, I don't know. We put a lot of work into that. We put a lot of work into that, dude. I don't do reviews because I have very limited time. I took a lot of personal time to work on that. I took time away from other things to work on that, right? I worked more than I usually do, and it was like, you got to be freaking kidding me. This is what we're going to do? The review was great, honestly, says Sven. It was a nice change of pace from your typical reviews you've done in the past. Would like to see more in-depth stuff like this. Listen, here's the thing. If I can get a code 2 weeks in advance, we wouldn't have had this conversation. I would have beat the game. I would have. If I would have had the code for 2 weeks, but I got the code in the middle of last week, right before I had a bunch of stuff already slotted and scheduled, and it was like that limited how much I could play it. So like if I can get codes earlier, that'd make a huge difference. You don't normally do it. What made you do this one? Creature and the community convinced me that I'm more casual. I appeal to a casual audience. I could make reviews for the casual, which is a review after 5. You know, a more casual player isn't going to be like, but does it get repetitive in hour 29? Like, they're going to be like, is it fun? What are the systems like? How do the systems work? Cool, thank you. Do you understand? Like, the people that got persnickety with me today aren't the target audience for the review. The target audience for the review is who I appealed to with my Destiny coverage. It's in line with who I am as a person and a gamer. I'm more casual. I play in smaller spurts. I make decisions about a game generally within the first 2 hours. Yeah, Zubair saying it. Is this worth my 2 hours I have free tonight? Right. The Game Awards will be 7:30 a.m. Oh my gosh, 7:30 p.m. tomorrow night Eastern Time. We'll go live before that, and we will be co-streaming it. The casual voice. Yo, what's good, Erodimus? Yeah, like, and it's hard to say, hey, this is a 5 hour, this is a shorter review, or this is a 30,000 foot review, or whatever. Like, it's hard to do that in a thumbnail and a title. So I was honest in the first 60 seconds of the video. I let people know I have put in 7 hours. So you can't call my character and integrity into question. I didn't try to mislead anybody, but you have to use gamer vernacular and colloquialisms. You can't be like, this is an Avatar Frontiers of Pandora first impressions, but more than that, because it's more than first impressions. Like, I think first impressions would really sell short how much work we put into it. You could even create an infographic condensing your analysis. At the same time as your target audience, your actual audience. I feel like most of us are a fair bit beyond the casual point. I feel like a lot of the lurkers and a lot of the guys that are working, driving truck in an office, their dads, they're busy, their moms, they're busy. I feel like a lot of those folks are not playing as hardcore as some of y'all are. The minority of this audience hangs out in the Discord and plays games like it's a very, very extreme hobby. I would say 75% of the people who listen to me every day, like a podcast and like a radio show, are very busy working class moms, dads, college students that are like, bro, I can't play like I used to. You know, it was that way when I covered Destiny. I don't think it's much different now. The bulk of Lono's audience has almost always been casuals. The core is hardcore-ish. Right. I'm happy about your videos, man, and reviews, so I'm glad about video games. I want to thank you for doing them. I appreciate that. Content's always oriented toward the maybes. He called y'all truck drivers? There are people who listen who are truck drivers. So instead of review, maybe say ongoing. Okay, I'd be open to putting Avatar Frontiers of Pandora review and then in parentheses put ongoing. I would be okay with that, so at least then the title says it. You only have so much room on a thumbnail. I don't have a problem with communicating ongoing, but then my only concern with that is that setting an expectation that I'm going to do another one. Like, I'm going to finish Avatar. I might do a review after 9 or 10 hours and be like, I'm not going to finish this game. It's bad, right? Like, so that ongoing, I don't want to set an expectation like, oh, it's an ongoing review. Okay, when are you going to do your full review? I'm not going to do a full review of Avatar. By the time I finish that game, it'll be weeks from now. I can't play that much. Review after 5, is that sufficient? We're going to brand them to being 5 hours-ish. Yeah, I don't think ongoing's the right idea. Maybe something that conveys that. I have no problem being more transparent with the viewer. I reject the gatekeeping and the judgmental attitude that I was seeing in chat from some people. I don't mind being more transparent and being like, this is a review after 5 hours, or this is a review after 5. I think, you know, we wanted to brand it. We want to call it reviews after 5. Like, hey, a lot of people get home from work after 5. Is this game good? Are you going to want to check it out, you know? Kevin's language is simple and effective. My 7-hour review. Yeah, maybe. We could have put that. Because I think people like to know that. They like to know. They're like, a lot of people don't care about hour 24. They're like, is this game any good? Like, what's the first 5 hours like? What's the first 4 hours like? 2 hours, whatever. The internet in gaming here isn't casual, but playtime may certainly be. Yeah, I think Eugene's correct. I think a lot of you guys play like I do. I think you're busy. You got kiddos and responsibilities, so you play for a few hours a night. If you push scan, it shows you where to go on the map for avatar missions. Well, no, I know that feed, but a lot of the times what it would do, let me see if I can get, I'll get in the game and give you an example of what I'm talking about. It'll show you where to go even when you're in the world. It'll show you where to go in the world, but you can't quite tell how to get there. It's like, get up there, and you're like, okay, I see where I need to get. I see the floating thing. I don't know where to go. There's stuff in the way. There's walls. There's climbing. There's trees, etc. What do you call someone who plays only a few hours but watches videos on builds and strategies? Right, like that's tough to quantify. Like, what is that? I want to know, are the graphics good? Yeah, I think the graphics are fantastic. I think this is one of the prettiest games I've ever played. Oh, you're saying those are all the things you're interested in, Kaiser Sose. I've gone full dad, so gaming is like a side hustle, says Dumpy Koala. I hate the labels, but personally, says Suede, I still follow gaming as a hardcore, but I can only play as a casual. I get the feeling a lot of others fall into that camp, says Suede. So you're saying, how do you push scan on the map? They never taught me how to push scan on the map feed. I can scan in the, all right, here, I'll give you an example. I'm in the game right now. Oh, hang on, those are comments. Hang on, I need to close that. Thankfully, it was just comments and not like a DM or something personal. Okay. Okay, so the way it works is, so right now I'm in the world, and this is on the PlayStation 5. You'll notice I'm getting great, consistent FPS right up here, but there will be stutters and hitches every once in a while. It's not that extreme, okay? I can scan like this, and I can see different plants that can be interacted with, different things that can be interacted with. I can inspect those things, right? This is just something I can search and get some stuff from. Now, that over there is where I'm supposed to go. And you'll see it's moving, right? It's way out in the distance. There are times where you can't quite figure out, or you'll get there and you're searching for something. And so you can't quite figure out where it is. So there is no scan on the map as far as I can tell. You can set a way marker if you want. I can create a custom. I can set a waypoint. I can back out. I can hide or show collected. That's all I can do here. So I'm not quite sure what you were talking about, Feed. I think maybe you were talking about in-game you can scan. And again, the scanning is helpful. It is. But you'll notice, look how far up I am. Like, that's down there, dude. You know? And now I may get down there and it may even tell me you're in the area, you got to try to find the thing or whatever, and there are times where you just can't find it or whatever. So you'll notice, I feel like I'm getting more consistent. I wonder if this is one of those games where once you put it on performance mode, you need to literally close the game and reboot it on your PlayStation 5. Because it was not running this smooth for me last night in areas that were this dense. I'm not getting any hitches today. I wonder. No, right there I got a couple. Nothing major though. Nothing major at all. So, game looks huge. It is. Yeah, I would want to know when that account was made, Eugene. This game's got a third-person perspective. Javier, it goes third-person when you're flying, but it doesn't do third-person when you're running around and shooting and stuff. And I originally thought that it should have been... Wait, was there a day one patch? Did they tweet about a day one patch? Oh, no. Nothing is worse than Final Fantasy XVI's performance mode. No way. No. The performance mode is super bad in Final Fantasy XVI. At least that's my opinion. It's bad. Because the nature of the stutters in that is it's like you're playing a completely different game. Right? It's drastically, you know, it's like this huge stutter. But it's not just a huge stutter. It's a huge stutter, and then everything you do feels hindered by it. When I'm in a town, when I'm exploring in Final Fantasy XVI, I think it's truly awful. I think it's truly awful. In this game, it's like a periodic stutter or like a minor frame drop, and then it stops. Like, it doesn't keep happening. It's not like I go into areas where I'm just consistently getting 30 to 40 FPS. That's what Final Fantasy XVI does. Lono just matumboed? What did I do? Did I say the wrong word? Cyberpunk was the worst launch. Final Fantasy 16 doesn't even come close. Yeah, I'm not saying that Final Fantasy 16 was a bad launch. What I'm saying is, in the realm of performance modes, Final Fantasy 16's I think is a bad performance mode. I don't think it's good. If I'm going to a town or I'm exploring, the entire game looks like sludge. It looks blurry. It's not even a consistent. It's not like it goes from 60 to a stable 30. It's all over the place. This game, a periodic stutter or a hitch. That's it. I didn't experience any major issues in performance mode in Final Fantasy 16 personally, but you might have had a different experience. I can respect that. Maybe you're not as sensitive to it. I'm super sensitive to anything under 60. I notice it instantly. I'm like, what the heck's going on? I had to learn to look away from the screen walking around towns. Yeah, it's really bad when you get to the second town that becomes like your second base or whatever. It's awful. It's like a slideshow. I'm like, what is going on? Just give me dynamic resolution. Give it to me everywhere. Like, I don't get it. That's certainly not the case in Avatar. Now, I'm actually interested to see if I go down here where it's going to be more... My capture card just stopped working. What the heck? My game's running fine. What is my capture card doing? I feel like this happened the other day. And I had to reset the capture card. I don't know why this keeps happening. Maybe the capture card's going bad. Hang on. I was about to say minor hitches. No, yeah, the game's fine. My capture card did that the other day, and I don't know why it's doing it. Okay. All right. Let's see if we get anything more major down here, as it's more. It did this the other day when we were trying to do something. What was I doing with Spider-Man? I was trying to like open and cover do something with Spider-Man, and it kept freezing up my capture card. Yeah, down in here you can notice it's not maintaining 60. It's not. It's probably in the 50s, maybe getting into the 40s at times. You can sense it. Even just doing this spin test, you can sense it. It's just a lot. You know, it's just there's a lot going on in the game. Like, I mean, just look how dense it is. Like the fact that it even has a performance mode with how dense this is, there's so much on the screen right now. It's insane to me. And it's raining, so I want to give you guys... Let me give you guys the rain. Hang on. You notice how it changes once I get under those leaves?
Why can't I focus?
Oh, hang on. Why is my heart beating so bad? What's going on?
Can't focus.
Why not? I've eaten food. I don't know what's going on. I don't know why the heartbeat thing's happening. Holy frick! That's the first time that's happened. I was trying to let you guys hear the rain. Hang on, let me turn. Okay, no, this is a good sample. You hear the rain up here? You see how it's like further away? If you go down into where there's stuff over you, it sounds totally different. So when that guy's around, you can't focus and your heart's gonna beat. He's hunting you, I guess. I didn't have that experience on PC, and I've played through this area. That was kind of cool. Okay, here, let me show you. Because it'll be easier to hear now without my heartbeat going crazy. Oh, and look at the rain on the branch, on like the leaves. Look at that. It's not raining right now, sadly, but you can see the remains of it. Just listen to the ambient sounds. Parasito says, all the plants are dynamic audio elements that get influenced by environmental effect. That's impressive. Yeah, sadly, the heartbeat made it hard to hear, but once I got under those big leaves, you could hear the rain hitting it above me. Like it got, it's absolutely amazing.
What was that?
Yeah, he's down here. We can't go down there, bro. Let's get out of here. Bye-bye. Woo. He's a one-hit kill, too. I don't have my heavy bow yet. Yeah. We can't go toe-to-toe with him. Yeah. But I think that's one of the reasons why, like, I feel like if you just really soak in the game, like, I feel like people treat games so disposably. And it's like, I've never played a game that sounds and looks this good, except for maybe Cyberpunk. Like, the environmental sounds, the rain, the ambient sounds of the flora and the fauna. It's just, I don't know, dude. You didn't play enough to fight that thing yet? Yeah, I played this part. Maybe I'm taking a different path or something. I don't know. I've played this part and I've not been hunted by that guy, so I don't know. Oh, I'm doing a side quest that I didn't do during my... Yeah, I'm in an area that's like higher level. I'm off the beaten path now. I'm no longer doing the main quest. I see what happened. I was just playing last night and I must have followed or grabbed a side quest that took me out there. I'm much further west on the map than I was when I played on PC. What did Dave say? Tempest 3D audio. The raindrops staying on the leaves after the rain is pretty clever shader trick too. They play a game disposably. They play a game in 15 hours and it takes me 40. Yeah, I just, if we can come up with a way on the thumbnail and the title to communicate, that hey, this is a snapshot review or something, or a review, like we said, review after 5, because I think what we did with this game is worthy of, listening to, worthy of attention. I think it gives you a good look at the game. Can't remember the name Sony gave their 3D audio solution. I just thought they called it 3D audio. I don't think they gave it a name. Can't wait to play this game. I have to wait until tomorrow to get my copy. Yeah, so we're going to do gameplay here in just a brief moment. And let's try to get 300 likes on the video. Let's try to get our 25 members. Oh, I didn't drag the coffee into the stream this morning. It was a very different stream. It's a very different approach to our daily ritual. So don't forget that the Frickmas is available. That is one of our more popular flavors of coffee. And so make sure and get yours ordered today. Get those out pretty fast. Check my longer message. That's not the impressive part to me, says Paris. It's that the leaves were providing directional audio based on the rain. As you turned and walked around, I could hear the difference in the raindrops on the differently sized plants. Creature says, I can't order, edit, create a new thumb, create a new playlist, and all that comes with those things in 3 days. I'm human. I'm not sure what you're saying, Creature. Will we be covering the Warzone 3 release today? No. Yeah, that was something I noticed when the rain happened in my one video. Outsider says, "Come on, boys, let's hit this 25 at the very least," and takes us to 11 members on the day. Thank you so much. Basically, the halfway point goes to some names I recognize like Kraken, Sony Kent, Baba Yaga, DSB. Appreciate you guys being here and getting those memberships. If you got a membership and can pay it forward, feel free to do that. You're gonna get the Pulse Explorer. What, like the headphones, the Bluetooth? Is that what those are? I don't know. Maybe. About how the video was released in name and title and POV. Well, right. We've got to kind of, carve that out and let people know that that's what we're going to be doing for sure. Again, if the type of review that people want is out there, it's out there if you want it. My review will be my point of view, and I believe I can provide my point of view after 5 or 10 hours. My point of view on games don't dramatically change when, except for, I think Elden Ring is one of the few games where that happens. Stone Spire helps push the line a little bit further with a single. It takes us to 12. Excuse me. Excuse me. There we go. Now, we're going to be doing the gameplay stream a little bit differently. I'm not going to, schedule it super far in advance. We're just going to schedule it and jump over and start playing. The earbuds are the Pulse Explorer. Okay. Aren't those earbuds designed for adults? How's Lono going to use them? It's so you can play your Portal with earbuds. Okay. Maybe. I don't really do tech breakdowns. Like, I felt like the Portal was an exception, and, like, VR headsets are an exception. I don't know about Bluetooth headphones. Like, calling that a business expense and, like, making a video on it. That feels... I don't do a lot of tech stuff. And the few tech things that I have felt like exceptions. Like, reviewing and unboxing a VR headset. Reviewing and showing off the PlayStation Portal. Got them pre-ordered 200. I do think just plugging in, because I typically like to use these, and I'm plugged in here, and I just plug these into the Portal. Like, I don't need another solution. I have little Bluetooth earbuds, but I use those for, like, my phone, like podcasts and audiobooks, around the house, and I'm, like, doing something, or like a long trip. I'll put one earbud in and listen to an audiobook, Love to see you play RE4 on the PSVR 2. Yeah, I don't know what we're going to do this Friday night with Madam. We'll see. We'll see if it's the Fortnite Lego game might be pretty cool. I can't seem to get, a gameplay consensus from it. Like, their cinematic trailer, it looks cool, but I also don't really know what exactly the game's going to look like or the gameplay. Are we going to be able to do split screen? In 2025, I'd like to see you do a retrospective on the PS5 and the Xbox Series X. Yeah, we're definitely going to do some videos coming up on, like, my favorite games this year, or my game of the year this year. Obviously, a reaction to the game of the year, the Game Awards tomorrow night. What I'm hoping to see in 2024. We like doing content like that at the end of the year. I think it's pretty fun. So, I appreciate the support today, guys. A very different day, not like the traditional talk show, not the traditional monologue. We appreciate what you guys do for the channel. We haven't missed a skull in over a year, so every 25, I give 5 and pay it forward. And memberships have slowed down a little bit, so what we've done is we've adjusted the goals to make them more attainable. Right now, we're trying to get to 2,000. 2,500 is for community game night, and then our stretch goal this month is lower than we've been doing it to make it easier to hit. 3,000, and we will do that Frickmas stream on the 22nd. We're also going to have the return of Hilly Hijinks on the 15th. We'll play another game. We will whatever that game was, Lethal Company, it just didn't work for Hilly and I's vibe. It was a little bit, it was a little more serious. We made it funny. I felt like we made it funny, but it didn't really go the way we wanted. So we wanted to do another Hilly hijinks, and I'm not sure what we'll end up playing, but it should be a good time. Maybe we can roll community game night and Hilly hijinks into one night. Maybe we can play, Hilly and I can play a game with you guys if we can hit 2,500 members before then. That's on the 15th. That means you have the rest of this week and next week to do that. Who is running with scissors? What game do they make? And what games are they not able to put on Xbox? Why is Xbox not accepting their games? That's interesting phrasing. Oh, it doesn't fit their library? Are there games like bad, like violent or something? Lono couldn't even use a flashlight playing Lethal Company. You have to buy one, don't you? Surgeon Simulator. We've already done Surgeon Simulator. That was pretty funny, though. Oh, their game Postal? I don't know. I guess the question would be how many games get rejected for similar reasons? Like, is that something that Xbox is being consistent about with respect to, curating their library, and not wanting certain games? Are they being consistent would be my question. Crazy idea, Halo Infinite co-op with Hilly. Oh, yeah. We could do the new Halo mode community game night with Hilly, Firefight or whatever it's called. How many people can play that? That actually looks like people are singing its praises. Or is that just a trailer that announced it? When's it coming? Has it come or not? Lately I've been seeing trailers and haven't had time to research everything because we were putting a lot of time into, trying to play this game off stream. You had to buy a flashlight, but getting us chat to tell you and Hilly to go to the computer was something else. Halo time? Listen, man, we got a ways to go, all right? We got a ways to go if you guys want a Halo community game night, We're going to have a classic Reforge Gaming member push. We haven't had one of those in a while. We've not been doing those barn burner days. We've been slowing down a teeny bit, which is that happens when I go out of town. That happens this time of year, but we're currently at 1835. So you guys got a ways to go. You're gonna have to rally, organize, pick a day. We might not even hit 25 today. We might lose our streak because we need to go to gameplay here in a little bit. I don't have it scheduled yet. I didn't have a specific time in mind. I was thinking around noon. We would switch to gameplay, so that's in maybe 20 minutes. We may go earlier, though. Is that available yet? It just says coming soon, Butters. It's on my wish list. I appreciate that on Fridays, the more confusing the game is, and the more that chat knows about the game, the less likely Lono is to look at chat. It's a gift. Well, I'm talking with Hilly and playing the game. Like, I get kind of in this, I get tunnel vision, I get tunnel vision. That's just how it goes, dudes. He does too. I mean, he's not reading chat. You get a couple hours, you get like an hour in, and we're both gone. Like, we're both just laughing and having a good time. Yo, Parasito drops a 10 bomb. He says, we're not losing this streak, bro. Yeah, Parasito keeping the streak alive. 3 away from 25. Let's go. Thank you, my man. Dropping the big one. And a single from Sneaky Wolf says, come on, boys. Can't lose our streak. Over a year hitting that 25 every single day. A 5 spot from Outsider. Lono, are you going to cover the pre-remake that Sony announced for Last of Us Part 1 on PS6? Also, Halo Firefight is out now. I don't know. What? for Last of Us Part 1 for PS6? Huh? Are you joking around? The Escape Simulator VR demo is live now. And Abe comes in with the 5 bomb and secures it, as well as being the agent of chaos and pushes us past 25. The man. I will gift the 5 members that I owe you guys in gameplay. Thank you so much, Abe. And a single from Soul Train, and a single from Joker Quinn, and takes us to 30. That's an accidental layup right there. A 20 bomb to 50. We'll see if any of the big boys are lurking in the chat to slam that home. So they're doing a demo of it. Okay. Hilly only reads chat when Lono steps away. That is true. And Patrick with a 5 bomb takes us to 35. Thank you so much, Patrick. Slamming it home. You guys are like, listen, we need a rally. We can rally, and you're starting a rally. I appreciate it very, very much. You guys are the absolute best. Best surround sound experience I've ever had was Top Gun Maverick. Yeah, I've heard that. Is Avatar good? IGN gave it a 7. I gave it like an 8.75. I think it's really, really good. I'm going to finish it. Like, you know, I've got 7.5 hours on PC and 2 hours on console, and I'm going to finish this game in my free time. That's how good it is. Let's slow down. Stop with the 50. We just got to 25. What do you mean? Let's slow down. You guys, do you want to hit the milestones or not, Abe? What do you mean slow down? What are you talking about? The way that we hit all the big milestones in the past was we didn't quit. We just kept going. You want that community game night? You guys are gonna have to go a little crazy. You know, we're gonna need like 500. 500 used to be nothing. I'd be like, yeah, guys, the next goal is 2,500. And like a day later, we'd be like, we're out of incentives. We went from a month where we ran out of incentives. Like, I don't even know what we hit, like 3,500 or something. And I was like, I don't have any more incentives for you guys. And now Abe's like, everybody slow down. Slow down. We don't want to hit 50. We don't want to go too crazy here. Abe. A single gifted from Tori. Thank you so much, Tori, taking us to 36. There were days where I literally told people to stop gifting because it was like, it's too much in one day. You guys are slanting it. And now 200 members to get Lono to stop calling them reviews. Yeah, you want me to stop calling them reviews? There's a price tag on it. There will never be a shave your head incentive. The hair is off limits. It would take way too long to grow back. I would look terrible for months. There's all those in-between stages of hair growth. There'd be 4 weeks where I would look like a fuzzy-headed idiot. Abe's like, 200? I got 5 on that. Too much in one day. Slow down, chat. Yeah. There were a couple days you guys went a little crazy. Abe's not kidding. He puts 5 on it. He says, come on. Unbelievable. 200 members for me to stop calling them reviews. I don't even know we'd be able to abide by that. What about eyebrows? No. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to disfigure myself for money. That's ridiculous. We do fun things, community things, goofy things. I'm not going to debase myself. You know, we shaved the beard. That's about as much as you're ever going to get out of me. I'm not doing that. I'm not going to disfigure what I look like with shaved head, shaved eyebrows. I would look so weird for such a long time. In before a mob of folks start mentioning the new IGN Bungie article about Sony bad. Huh? Bro said disfigure? I would look like an alien if I shave my head. I have a large head. I would look very weird without eyebrows. Have you ever seen people Photoshop people's eyebrows away? It's shocking. No. You already look weird? Oh, IGN's got something here. Schreier says, lots of sad and shocking details in this well-reported story about Bungie's latest cultural crisis by Duck Valentine. One theme behind this year's industry layoffs is that even the most successful live service games can't keep growing forever. Well, we're going to have to check that out. Too long didn't read. If Bungie keeps crapping the bed on delivering targets, Sony can dissolve the board and take over. Well, that'd be an interesting turn of events, wouldn't it? To clarify my vid ideas retrospective, I meant like your overall thoughts on both systems after 5 years, not like a history, leaning more on your opinion than just their history. Sorry if you already saw it. If you wanted to, I just wanted to clarify. It'd be a fun idea. I appreciate that idea, Lone Wolf. I don't think it's a bad idea. It's out there. It's out there. That reaction, I mean, I prayed for justice, and I think justice comes in many forms, which is why I've always cautioned people to leave me alone. Kind of interesting what's happening to the companies that hurt me. I don't know. Just some interesting patterns emerging. Almost like when your company and your leadership's toxic and terrible, bad things are coming your way. Them and Twitch. There's reckonings coming for both companies. So, yeah. That's all I'll say for now. From the person that covered it, since the Bungie layoffs a month ago, I've been talking to a number of folks that are still at the company who say morale's taken a nosedive, benefits have been reduced or cut, clubs were hit hard, leadership seems indifferent or even hostile. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I tried to tell you. Twitch is next. I tried to tell you. All these companies, their chickens are coming home to roost. So, and I'm not going to celebrate or gloat. I'm just going to tell you with a sober and straight face that I frickin' tried to tell you. I tried to tell so many people about that company and what they were. I tried. Everybody thought I was paranoid and everybody thought I was just being vengeful. No. I get where you're coming from, but if you pull up with a lawn chair and popcorn, we're going to have an intervention. No. No, according to my own beliefs, I'm not supposed to gloat or celebrate the downfall or the judgment of people that have it coming. But there's a pattern emerging. The people and the companies that did what they did to me, they're all getting exactly what is coming to them. So, a sad, sober reality, and I'm glad that we're not attached to any of it anymore. I'm really glad. Glad to be away from it. Glad to not rely on any of it. Okay. I'm going to schedule gameplay. We may end up covering that story. I don't know. I'll have to check out that IGN story and see. Because what did I say when we covered the Bungie thing a couple of weeks ago? What did I say? I said more will come out. This is not the end. The leadership and that company, it is toxic. They are not good people. And you will hear more. And I've been saying that for 3 years. I've been saying it for 3 years. And I just said it a couple weeks ago. I said it when they tried to have the puff piece about the misconduct at the company. I was like, there is more that will come out about this company. I was like, this is just the beginning. This is like the first salvo. The opening salvo, I should say. And I guarantee you it's not the devs and it's not the workers, it's not the people that are going to be the most negatively affected by it. It's the higher ups, it's the leadership. It always has been. Maybe one day we'll find out what in the world happened with me. Maybe somebody will be willing to speak out. That would be rich. All right, I'm scheduling the gameplay. If you guys want to quickly push 9 more members, we can go into this stream. I'll owe you 10. When we get over to gameplay, right now I'm going to have to gift you 5. I'll gift you 10 when we get over there. You guys can obviously keep pushing those. You can keep pushing those numbers as well once we're in gameplay. I appreciate it so much. We don't do gameplay a lot on this stream. We don't do reviews a lot on this stream. So any support today for either is super helpful. If you haven't watched the review, be sure to do that. Be sure to leave a comment. Be sure to leave a like. That's super helpful. Do the same on this video. Make sure you've smashed the like button. 300 likes would be spectacular. This thing, I'm not sure if this thing will ever really go anywhere because it's not quite as valuable as the review. But the opening of this video, I think, is helpful in giving people a look at the game and kind of the review roundup and what people are thinking. And okay. Okay, I'm gonna set this for noon. Okay. They now ask me 3 times if I want to turn on automated ads on a live stream. So you remember when I got clipped out of context and I told you guys that they were really going to push us to do that? They continue to apply a whole lot of pressure to do that. And I continue to say no. I really hope they never make us do that. When I come to the live streaming page, they ask me. When I schedule it, they ask me. After it's been published, they try. Like, they are really pushing for automated ads auto-placed ads on live environments, live streams, and VODs. And I'm like, no. Like, what the heck? No. That's so not conducive to the live environment. Now, I do hope we can get to a point where they put the ads in the chat like we have heard. But, yeah. All right, let's get this live stream tweeted out and featured. They're going to keep asking you until you do it. That's why processing is effed up. Keep having to update the VODs. Yeah, it's so frustrating. It's like they've got to nail ads landing. Ads have to land in the chat and not disrupt the video. If you want ads to function and to work in a live environment, they cannot disrupt the broadcast. It's backwards. It simply won't work. Okay. All right, tweets are sent. All right. I'm going to quickly run upstairs and use the restroom. I've been down here for a while. And then we're going to jump into gameplay. All right. Don't go anywhere. You might get a gifted member in the new stream. You might get a new membership in the new stream. I have to give 5. That people might scramble here at the end and give us 9 more, and then I'll owe you 10. I'll be right back. Okay. All right. Okay. 41. Okay. I was just making sure. All right. I'm going to give you guys a link, but I'm also going to redirect you. Redirect seems to be working better. They also updated the chat. It looks nicer than before. So that's nice. Okay. We can do chat ads now. Oh, I was like, what? I was like, we can? All right, there's a link in chat. Let me shut the music off. Get the game sounds on.
Catnat will not allow this insolence.
Okay, I don't want to have that happening.
It has been many years since your people visited.
Yeah, I tell you what. Let's just have this up. I don't like boot up and be like, hey, welcome into the thing. And like somebody's like talking over me. Thanks so much for checking out some gameplay of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora. This will be on PS5. I will be showcasing performance mode as well as showing you what my FOV is set to. I did feel like I got better performance when I turned a couple of things off that might help you on PS5 if you're looking for performance mode. I have a full a discussion with the audience if you want to go watch the live discussion. We kind of discussed the reviews that I had seen and what I thought. Then I have a review that's after 7 hours of gameplay. It's pretty substantive. We put a lot of work into it. It's not like just a quick flyover. It really gets down into all the various systems that you get to experience. You do get to experience quite a bit of the game within about the first 7 hours, including flight. So be sure to check out that review. That is also on the channel. I'm going to end the live discussion and bring people over with redirect.